Ahoy and welcome back to Leia's Library. Find yourself a cozy corner, get yourself some tea, and let's get into it. Today, I am existentially exhausted, so we're gonna do our best. So, what am I doing today? Right, yes. Today I will be looking through lines from books that made me realize, ooh, this is gonna be good. And I've got four. I'm so tired. Oh, I feel like a mess today. So I've got 4 books lined up for today. There are definitely more. I just didn't have time to peruse every single book on this bookshelf. And I get most of my books from the library, so I don't even own most of my favorite books. It's truly a modern day tragedy. So, let's get into it. First book on the list is one that I do own, because I found it at a thrift store for like $4, is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. So, The Book Thief is about, it's set during World War II in Germany. We follow Liesel, who's a young German girl, and she begins stealing books at quite a young age. There's a lot of build-up at the beginning, a lot of setup, but the plot kicks off when Liesel's foster family end up harboring, is that a correct word? They end up hiding a Jewish man in their basement. But one of the most interesting aspects, so this book is phenomenal, by the way, in every sense of the word. But one of the most interesting aspects is that it is narrated by Death. And it's just, the writing is so beautiful. So when I realized this was going to be a good book was literally on page 1. So please don't spill tea. So this is the first real page. The chapter's name is Death and Chocolate. And this is the line. Or it's actually like more than one line. It's a little passage. This is the passage. Here is a small fact. You are going to die. I am in all truthfulness attempting to be cheerful about this whole topic, though most people find themselves hindered in believing me, no matter my protestations. Please, trust me. I most definitely can be cheerful. I can be amiable, agreeable, affable, and that's only the A's. Just don't ask me to be nice. Nice has nothing to do with me. Reaction to the aforementioned fact. Does this worry you? I urge you, don't be afraid. I'm nothing if not fair. I really like this book. I mean, don't get me wrong, it will tear your heart out of your chest and stomp on it and hand it back to you gift wrapped, and you will thank it for it. It's one of those books that everyone says there are some books that like everyone needs to read before they die, and usually they're just pretentious, overwritten things by old white men. But this one is actually really good. And I do think it actually belongs on the list of books everyone should read before they die. So yeah, The Book Thief. Let's move on to the next one. So the next book I don't own. It is Picture Us in the Light by Kelly Lloyd Gilbert. It is about, oh shoot, I forget his name. Was it Henry Collis? Which is about a teenage Chinese-American boy who ends up finding a box in his parents' closet that reveals that they've been hiding something for him for his whole life. Were the sirens necessary? I mean, I'm sure they were. It's probably an emergency. That's super selfish of me to say. Anyway, moving on. Picture Us in the Light. Yeah, there are more themes in that book too. That's a very simple description. But it was one of the best books that I've read all year so far. Very, very good. I really enjoyed it. I would love to own it one day if I can find it at a thrift store for $4. And I knew it was going to be good as of page 4, where it had probably one of my favorite ever passages that I've read. And it goes like this. Because if you're tangled up in someone else, if your futures are tied that way, if that's real and you know when it happens, then that means you know who you belong to, and you know whose fate is tied to yours, whether you like it or planned it or not, whether they still exist in the same world with you or they don't. And I think that's where everything begins and ends. I think that's everything. There are a lot of themes in Picture Us in the Light that have to do with finding your place and who you really belong to, or not so much to, who you really belong with and what family means. And it's just a really beautiful book, and I really loved it, and I would highly encourage anyone to pick it up. Yeah, I just really like that passage. I like the idea of your future being tangled up with somebody else's, and not even in a romantic way necessarily, because that sounds very romantic, but I don't think it's intended to be. Just knowing that there are people out there that you belong with in whatever aspect, romantically, platonically, familially. Is that a word? It is now. Just knowing that there's someone out there, somewhere out there that you belong, and there are people out there that you belong with, is just such a nice sentiment. Yeah, I really like it. Next on the list is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Doerr? Still haven't learned how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. So this is also set during World War II. It is about a blind Parisian girl named Makelore and a German orphan boy named Werner, and how their paths intertwine. And again, that's a very, very brief summary. I'm leaving out a lot, but I think I've talked about all of these books before, so I don't want to go too far into them. But this is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. So it was really hard finding a passage where I realized it was going to be good, because it was kind of from line 1, but line 1 isn't even anything spectacular. So I found a passage on page 16 that I do remember reading and actually feeling it physically in my body. So yeah, I think that's a safe place to go with. So, page 16. It is a chapter called Bombs Away. 17, 18, 19, 20. Now the sea races beneath the aiming windows, now rooftops. 2 smaller aircraft line the corridor with smoke, and the lead bomber salvos its payload, and 11 others follow suit. The bombs fall diagonally. The bombers rise and scramble. The underside of the sky goes black with flecks. Maquilao's great-uncle, locked with several hundred others inside the gates of Fort National, a quarter-mile offshore, squints up and thinks, locusts, and an Old Testament proverb comes back to him from some cobwebbed hour of parish school. The locusts have no king, yet all of them go out in ranks. A demonic horde, upended sacks of beans, 100 broken rosaries. There are 1,000 metaphors, and all of them are inadequate. 40 bombs per aircraft. 480 altogether, 72,000 pounds of explosives. An avalanche descends onto the city, a hurricane. Teacups drift off shells, paintings slip off nails. In another quarter second, the sirens are inaudible. Everything is inaudible. The roar becomes loud enough to separate membranes in the middle ear. The anti-air guns let fly their final shells. 12 bombers fold back unharmed into the blue night. On the 6th floor of number 4 Rue Vauborel, Marie-Laure crawls beneath her bed and clamps the stone and little model house to her chest. In the cellar beneath the Hotel of Bees, the single bulb in the ceiling winks out. There's just such beautiful writing in this book. It's so atmospheric. It captures the exact emotion that Anthony Doerr is trying to convey, and it can be speaking about such horrific things like a city being bombed, and it's still beautifully written while also being completely evocative, and I felt that in my body. I felt the horror of this demonic horde of bombs falling onto a city. Yeah, it's just really incredibly written. Would also very strongly recommend this book. I mean, I recommend all the books on this list, obviously, but the last book on the list for today is a book called Lakelore by MacLemore. This was a magical realism book. How do I summarize this one briefly? It is about two non-binary teenagers who met when they were younger, but they haven't seen each other for about 7 years, I think it is now. And there is a lake that they both live nearby that is rumored to house an underwater world. And both of them have seen this world, but something happens that makes this world under the lake come onto the world on land. And in order to stop it, they'll have to work together, which means that they'll have to learn how to trust each other and how to talk about their deepest secrets. And it's very beautifully written, all of it. MacLemore is also very good at writing beautiful sentences. This one is very short compared to the other ones. It's on page 27, and it's just this. The weather in my brain today is good. That's it. But that resonated so hard with me, and I think anyone who struggles with mental illness will also feel that. There are days where the weather in your brain is a bunch of clouds. There are days when it's raining. There are days when it's a gosh darn monsoon. A hurricane, perhaps. And there are days when the weather is just nice. Even if there are some clouds, there's still sun peeking out. It's nice. And that metaphor worked so well with me. Another thing that's in like a similar place in the book is the idea of gender forecasts, where they'll say they're both non-binary teens, like I said, and they feel kind of different depending on the day, gender-wise. So one of them says they kind of exist everywhere on the spectrum, but some days there's a 42% chance of femininity drifting into masculinity in the evening. So yeah, I just love that idea, and I would love to incorporate that into my whole life, basically. That's basically it for today. Kind of a shorter video, but hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think of these books down in the comments if you so like. If you'd like to find me elsewhere, you can find me on Instagram at Leia Like the Princess. On Instagram, you can also find my little embroidery and art store, Moonlit Cat Creations, or you can go directly to the website at moonlitcatcreations.com. And until next time, stay cozy.